All right, so it's very important for you to be able to log into D2L. Everything we do, all your assignments, you'll read your assignments in D2L, all the PowerPoints are in D2L. That's where you upload your homework. So to access D2L, you have to first log into the computer that's in front of you. If you're having problems logging into the computer, we need to talk about it a little bit. But if it's a problem with your password, I won't be able to help. To log into these computers, is anybody not able to do that? Cool. How about D2L? To get into D2L, you load up a browser. I usually use Chrome, doesn't really matter. You type in d2l.rose.edu. Come on in. C++? All right. It's d2l.rose.edu. D2L stands for Desire to Learn. The company changed their name later to Brightspace, whose initials are BS. I guess they don't want to put bs.rose.edu for some reason. So it's d2l.rose.edu. And the login, it'll again be your first two initials followed by your name, and then it should be your birthday as the password. And as I look around, almost everybody's already got it. Then you'll select our course. On the first page is the news. Anything I post should appear up at the top of the news, so it'll be really blatantly obvious, if anything new has been posted. And I have 3 or 4 messages here, which we'll go through really quickly.
You're in a Java class, aren't you?
Really? And you can tell that everybody that for Java, I kept pulling up the C++ page. Meets right before. But I was in the right one for the attendance. Yes. Okay, great. Okay, so here we go. This is what D2L looks like. The thing we will be using the most, we'll be using the content section under course tools and the Dropbox under course tools. And I know that 90% of y'all have already used D2L, so I'm sorry to belabor this. But for those who haven't, this will be useful. In the news, you'll see my name and the office hours and my phone number. I would love it if everybody would grab your phone and send me a text. And the reason I ask for y'all to do that is because that way I'm as easy to access as just grabbing your phone and sending me a message. If you're having trouble programming, you can't get an assignment done, just take a picture of your screen and text it to me. And I can usually tell you right away what's wrong with your program. So the people who do take advantage of that usually find it very helpful. And don't be shy. Don't think, oh, I better not contact him because it's 3 a.m. I'm smart enough to put my phone on mute so then I'll answer you the next morning. Texting is strongly encouraged. Also, if you're not going to be here, it's cool if you tell me. I'll obviously notice when you don't show up, but it's cool to tell me. And if I'm going to be late for some reason, it's very unlikely I will be, but I would let you know via text or if the campus is closed, which is always possible. This being Oklahoma, you never know when you're going to get an ice storm. If you're worried about whether the campus is being closed, you can also check the website, www.rose.edu. Hopefully it'll say, but you can always text me. That way you don't have to just sit there and watch, CBS for the school closings to scroll by on the bottom of the screen. So my phone number is 405, as are most of ours, 898-7767. If you would text me your name and put C++ in your message, just send me a second message if you didn't, then I'll know who you are and what class you're in. I'll only contact you for class-related matters, and at the end of the semester I delete your email address, so hopefully not too intrusive. As far as office hours go, you can see them here. On Tuesdays, I come in an hour before class starts. Well, and I come in at 6. 6 to 7 would be a good time to come see me if you need some evening office hours. And since you're taking an evening course, then that's reasonable. Thursday, I didn't schedule myself evening office hours, but if you need me to come in at 6 p.m., I will. Otherwise, you can come in during the day, or if we need to meet on Friday, just make an appointment with me, and I'll hook y'all up. We could also stay late talking after class, but we really probably don't want to stay too late. We get sleepy. Oh, and by the way, they lock these doors on this side when it gets late at night. So you're going to go down the stairs, you're going to try to go out that way, and then you're going to go, oh man, you're going to have to walk all the way down to the other side. That's likely. Sometimes these will be open, so if you want to try it, that's cool. But more often than not, you'll find us locked, and it's a drag. The other side's not locked. Okay, down at the bottom underneath the office hours, there's a page that says free software. Some of this is not applicable to us really, specifically, but some of it is. Specifically this first one, dreamspark.rose.edu for Microsoft software. We use a development package called Visual Studio in this class. It's installed on all of these machines, and it's also installed in the machines in the computer lab right, across the corner in 206. So if you need to do your homework and you're not going to install Visual Studio at home, you can come to the computer lab, anytime that this building is open, and use it there. But if you do want to install it at home, which I recommend, because you never know when you're going to wake up at 3:30 a.m. and just really want to get some programming done, then go to dreamspark.rose.edu, create a new account. Just follow that link, create a new account. It'll get ratified within a day, and then you can download Visual Studio with C++. And you can look at the other stuff available too. It, however, does not have Office. If you want Office, you have to get Office a different way. If you have a Mac, you might want to download a virtual machine, which lets you run Windows software on your Mac. Any Mac users here? Or am I not going to have to worry? Okay, cool. My Mac is about 6 years old, so I'm going to be borrowing one so that I can make sure that it works with y'all. You don't have to install Windows in order to do software development on your Mac. You can use Xcode. However, you're going to be kind of going off in uncharted territory because that's not what I'm going to be showing up here. So you just have to, do the elbow grease. But I want to get it up and running on my Mac as well, so I can help you with it. But if you wanted to, you could download a virtual machine software and install it. People's laptops, with the solid state drives usually don't have that much space, and they don't want to do that, so it's okay if you don't want to do that. If you're using your Mac, you can use Xcode. If you're using a Linux machine, there are other C++ compilers and environments that you can install. If you want Microsoft Office, try this link. I can't guarantee it works, but students supposedly have the ability to go there and get a free copy of Microsoft Office. And if you're going to do Java or Python development, I post the links for that too, just because I also teach those classes. So one of the homework assignments, the first homework assignment I give, it's not posted yet, I'll post it by Thursday, which will just be, to install Visual Studio on your computer at home, or upload a note saying that you're going to be doing it some other way. What are the some other ways? You're going to either use the lab here, or you're going to be using something else other than Visual Studio. Anyways, that's just to encourage you to go ahead and do so at the beginning of the class pretty quickly. So to make that decision, And if you change your mind later, you can always install it later. But just to let me know that you're thinking about how you're going to be doing your homework. Because you won't be able to do all of it in class. Or if you do all of it in class, I'm going to notice you sitting there typing furiously, it'll hurt my feelings. Okay, so besides the Dropbox, the other important place to go is the content section, Course Tools Contents, and that's where all of our PowerPoints will be posted. That's where videos will be posted. They'll have their own folder, and I'll label each video by day. And of interest to us right now, the syllabus is posted there. You'll see both Word and Adobe PDF doc versions of just about everything I upload. Just depends on which one you want to open. When you click on a link inside D2L, quite often it'll bring it up in a little preview window. For something like a PDF or a Word doc, well, especially a PDF, that's usually okay. Word docs, it usually messes up the formatting and it's harder to read. And if it's a PowerPoint that's 40 or 50 pages long, it's more difficult to read there. And if it's a a downloadable book like we use in some other classes, then it's hundreds of pages long and it takes forever to view it in this thing. In short, you'll probably want to download documents to disk. The way you do that is you scroll to the bottom of the screen and there'll be a download button, or there'll be an button here with an arrow pointing down. I'm not sure why sometimes it displays one and sometimes it displays the other, but here it's a download button. So I'm going to download the PDF to view it. Not strictly necessary because it displays PDFs fine, but then I get a full screen viewer. So what is this class? It's an introductory class in developing procedural and object-oriented logic for problem solving using C++. Okay, that's just a lot of verbiage saying we're going to be learning the basics of the C++ programming language. C++ is a large topic, and to become masters of it would take more than one semester. But we'll get you a good basis in it, and that's our goal. So we will learn core concepts of writing computer programs: variables, decision, structures, loops, functions, classes, and object-oriented concepts. Some of that may sound like Latin. On the other hand, some of y'all already have programming experiences, and I hope that for those who have already done some programming, you don't find the class too basic. But we got to go at a speed that I can make sure that that the vast majority of the class can understand. Here's where we meet. Good thing we all know that. Here's my contact information. I'm downstairs in room 102, which is just the second door to the left when you come in through those doors. Excuse me, second door to the right. I'm slightly dyslexic. I'll gesture to the right and say left. My office hours are posted, so you can find me very easily, or you can text me or call me, or you can email me, but calling and texting gets faster responses, of course. Here's our textbook. It's available for Kindle if you want to look at it on your iPad or your Android or your Amazon Fire device, Not a bad way to do it. Or you can buy it. Having a home computer or a laptop is nearly essential for the class. If you're not going to install it at home, if you're not going to use C++ at home, then you're going to have to come to the computer lab to do your homework. Nothing wrong with that. It's just not as convenient for you. Course objectives and expected outcomes. By the time you're done, you should understand fundamental concepts and general principles of programming. Some of y'all have already had the 1113 class, where you learn flow charting and pseudocode, and then you may have used the Python programming language. That's a good build-up for this one. If you haven't taken that, then that's probably okay. I designed this course in order to stand alone, although it lists 1113 as a prereq, so I expect eventually more and more people will have taken 1113. Anyways, that's where you really get introduced firstly to the fundamental concepts. We won't be doing flow charting in here. I may give you a flow chart or two, but we won't be doing it. That's for the 1113 class. We'll learn how to write, compile, and debug and run C++ programs. We will write programs utilizing logic constructs, selection and repetition concepts. And we will utilize language features such as arrays and abstract data types. And as you learn more programming languages, you're going to figure out that a lot of the concepts in these programming languages apply across all the languages, but they're all implemented a little bit differently. So for you Python programmers, you're going to look and see, arrays look an awful lot like the list did in Python. Or, wow, that's very similar to how I did it in Java. And that's good news. It means that the knowledge you gain in one programming language carries over in the next one. That doesn't mean that just because you took Java, C++, that you should tell an employer you know Java. But you could tell them, no, but I'm an experienced C++ developer and I can pick it up, very quickly. Grading scale is pretty ordinary. 90% and above's an A, 80% and above's a B. Most people in my classes make an either an A or a B. That's the level at which I teach it. I don't teach it so that I'm expecting everybody, to make a C and only a few superstars make an A. That's not my goal. I want you all to make A's. And I don't mind turning in grade sheets where a majority of the people make A's. If anybody challenges me on that, I'll show them the exams and the homework, and I'll say, okay, if you think you can do this, then you can challenge me. Otherwise, So, it's not meant to be a killer class. That being said, you do have to put some effort into it to do the homework. Grades are broken down as follows. Programming assignments will be either from the book or more often, there'll be something that I have posted a PDF or a Word doc in to D2L, and it'll give you a task to accomplish. It'll be pretty specific about the task. You won't have to wonder too much about what you're doing there. So you'll be doing the programming assignments. That's the work that you need to be doing on your own. And when I say on your own, I really mean on your own. Don't turn in somebody else's homework as your programming homework. Then also, not every day, but probably at least once a week, we'll be doing in-class homework. In-class homework is when I give you a guided tour through writing a program. I'll either come up here and I'll type, or I'll give you a handout, or you'll have a document, a PDF or an Acrobat document that you can copy text from and go that way. Usually I type it up here. That could be a problem for you if you can't see the screen. There's a lot of workstations that are, kind of free up here. So if you forgot to bring your binoculars and you're having trouble reading the screen, please move up. I promise I don't, gesticulate too wildly and knock things out of your hands. And then there will be exams. I'm really not big on quizzes. I've had students give me feedback that they wish I offered quizzes. And y'all can, go and smack those students for saying that, they wish that I had quizzes. If I do offer quizzes, they're usually pretty easy. And sometimes what I do is I have you fill out the quiz and then I give you the answers right then and there so that you can get 100 on it right away. I'm still thinking about that. But if there are quizzes, they'll be wrapped up into the in-class assignments as far as grades are concerned. And then 3 exams, which make up 30% of your grade. 40 and 20 and 30 don't add up to 100. So what did I do wrong? I think the in-class homework and quizzes is actually supposed to be 30% along with the exams. My mistake. I need to correct the syllabus. Important dates. It's not mentioned here because we don't meet on Monday, but September 5 is Labor Day. We get Labor Day off. So, 2 weeks from yesterday. You don't have to come to class if you have any Monday classes. There's a midterm exam. Well, this is making it look like we only have 2 exams rather than 3. And that's got the wrong day on it as well. So just pretend that line there isn't there. It won't be there the next time you look at this syllabus. There's a fall break, of course, which is 2 days, but one of those days is Friday, so it's like big whoop. Nobody's here on Friday anyways. The last day to withdraw. None of y'all want to withdraw, so that's not going to be important, but if you want to, there it is. Thanksgiving break. You pretty much know when Thanksgiving is, but you get Wednesday and Thursday off. And the final exam, and that is the correct day, unlike the midterm. So my grading policy. The program has to be able to run in order to get any credit. And what that means is that there can't be any syntax errors in it. If the program won't compile and run, I can't test it. And so that means that you didn't understand it. So I can't give you any credit for that. You'll probably get a 1 out of 100. I give the 1 just to indicate that it's been graded. But if that happens, and then you get a 1, or if you don't get full credit for an assignment, like you only get half credit, you can revise your homework and submit it again. So in D2L, you'll see your grade when you're looking at the Dropbox. You'll see my feedback when you click on the little feedback button. And if it says, program was supposed to do this, or I couldn't get it to compile, or whatever reason you didn't get credit for it, you can revise it and then resubmit it. And you'll get more credit. You'll get majority credit for it as long as you're kind of doing it in a prompt fashion. Partial credit may be awarded for assignments that do not meet full criteria. So like if I ask that the program calculate the value of pi, and it calculates pi as equaling 3.5 rather than 3.14159, I may go, no, it doesn't work. I see what, there's a problem here. Maybe you get only 50% credit for it, half credit, or maybe you get, 3/4 credit for it. No problem. Just revise it. It's not your final answer. Fix it. Because in the real world, that's the way it works, You write something, you submit it, then if your testers find a problem, or if the user finds a problem, you fix it. They're not for us. Programming assignments are generally due 1 week from the day they are assigned. So if I give you a programming assignment on a Tuesday class, it'll be due Monday midnight the following week. If it's a Wednesday class, it'll be due, if it's Thursday, it'll be due Wednesday at midnight. That's most likely. If I consider it a really complicated assignment, you can get more than a week. If that happens to hit Thanksgiving break or something like that, I'm not going to be a jerk and expect you to work over Thanksgiving. So you'll get additional time on those. If you get homework done by the time that it's due, by midnight Monday or midnight Wednesday, whenever it's due, you get a 5% grade bonus. So that's pretty cool. You get credit just for being on time. It's kind of like, if you work and you build a reputation for being a prompt worker. And that's kind of cool because that way, you're building up a bonus on your assignments. That'll help if you only receive partial credit for an assignment at the end of the semester. Keep your grade up. But if it's late, then it gets a 10% deduction. It's still a 90. You can still make an A on a program. So don't just blow it off because it's late. You can still get an A on a program that's late. However, I want you to get it done within that week. After a week, penalties start applying, and they're pretty drastic. If it's more than a week late, you get 50% off. If it's more than 2 weeks late, you get 75% off. Whoa, that's pretty serious. Well, a lot of profs don't even let you turn in anything late at all. They give you a 0 if it's late, so I don't feel too bad about those penalties, especially since you can be building and earning a bonus by getting it in on time. In-class assignments need to be done within 2 weeks. After that, a 50% deduction is applied. After 3 weeks, no credit is applied. Why are there late penalties at all? It's just to encourage us to all stay on the same page. Because if some of y'all are doing your homework and some of y'all aren't, then when I'm up here lecturing, those who aren't are either just going to be totally lost, or you're going to be asking questions that the other half of the class already know the answer to, and the class is going to go much more slowly. It's okay to ask questions about stuff that you don't understand. If I think that it's going to take more than 5 minutes to explain, though, I may ask that we, meet after class, or, something to go into something more depth, with more depth. It's okay to ask questions. Please ask questions. Even if you haven't done the homework and you think everybody else understands it, so there's probably somebody else who has the same question. Please ask it. I'll mention once more, please ask questions. I keep planning on bringing cookies, and everybody who asks a question gets a cookie. But then I know what would happen. Somebody would say, like, what color is the sky? And I'd go, okay, you get a cookie for that. Nah, I probably won't do that. If you talk to me before the due date about why an assignment might be late, then I might waive the late deduction. Like if you say, I'm going to be out of town for that week, or whatever. Just let me know in advance. If you look at the way the grades are structured, you could get a passing grade, a 60 anyways, by doing all the in-class homework for just showing up and for taking the exams and not doing any homework, or maybe only doing a homework assignment. That would let you pass, but you have to do at least half of the assigned homework to pass the course. That's just a little hook. And usually, I almost never have to apply that, because if I give 8 homework assignments or 10 homework assignments over, the course in a semester, that would mean you only have to get 4 or 5 of them done in order to meet that minimum criteria. But the reason you do that is because there are some students who think that they don't have to do any homework at all and they just make good grades on the exams. Well, they haven't demonstrated that they can program. And if you can't demonstrate to me that you can program, you're not going to be able to go on and do it, for a living. So, just to be fair to your future employers and to yourself, that's to encourage you to do your homework. But it's not hard to get half the assignments done, is it? The vast majority of you will turn in all your assignments, and the vast majority of you are going to get good grades. That's my hope. In fact, I want everybody to. Attendance. Everybody here doesn't need to worry about it, but you probably know that if you don't show up in the first 2 weeks, or even sooner in a shorter class, like an 8-week class, then you will be dropped from the class with an AW on your transcript. And the AW is permanent, and it's kind of a drag. And what's worse is that if you were being paid, if the government paid for the class, and they'd come and they'd get their money back. So always make sure you attend class, the first week. Make sure that you don't get dropped. That doesn't apply to y'all. And this is kind of just my editorial. Students with poor attendance generally find themselves getting left behind very quickly. I know that it's late. I know you might be tempted not to come in. I'm very thankful that you do. And since I make recordings, you may be tempted to blow off coming into class, and you may think, well, I'll just listen to the recording. The likelihood is that there's a good chance that you might not. So come to class as often as possible. Almost invariably, the students who are struggling towards the end of the semester are the ones who've been having poor attendance. They thought that they could handle skipping, and then it turned out that they couldn't. Now, the students who let me know ahead of time that they have to, miss something because, they know that their job is going to kick into some mode where they have to miss a week or two or like that. Usually, the students who are willing to talk to me like that are usually the ones who are motivated enough to actually keep up. But just don't blow it off without good reason. If you do miss a class, watch the lecture and do the in-class assignment. Just because it says in-class doesn't mean you can't do it at home by watching the lecture. A lot of the in-class assignments don't have any documentation whatsoever. You would have to watch the video in order to do it. Those in-class assignments, don't copy them from a friend just because you missed that day. Do the work. It's better for you. Student expectations. Please keep your phones, laptops, etc. silent. Please no game playing during class. Please no watching YouTube videos. You'd be surprised at why I have to put that in there and underline it. Sometimes people do watch videos and they have the earphones in. They think that nobody will notice. Well, it's distracting for the people behind you, and we can still hear through the earphones. I've had people sit in the back of the room, playing their portable PlayStation games against each other. It hasn't happened recently. More recently, it was Nintendo DS's, but still, that's distracting. And don't make me have to be a jerk and come back and talk to you and tell you to don't do that. Any behavior that is disruptive, will not be tolerated. If it's distracting to me up here, it's distracting to everybody else, and I'll have to ask you to stop. If you need to take a call, just go outside. That's why we have the phones, so that if you have to go home, or deal with some emergency, it's totally fine. Just take the call outside. It's a no-smoking campus. You'd be surprised that people thought that they could get away with smoking vapes. They're not cigarettes. Yeah, but vapes aren't allowed either. You need to check D2L regularly to keep up with announcements and assignments. If you miss a day, that's no excuse for not knowing that the homework was due, because you can check D2L, and the due dates there are posted very blatantly. If for some reason I need to modify this syllabus, I'll post notification of it in D2L, and I will email out. At that point, it's your responsibility to make sure you understand the changes, and if you don't, ask me questions. Now, do I change the syllabus very often? No. I really haven't done so in the past 6-7 years. But if for some reason it came up, that doesn't include making corrections like this. I am going to fix that. I guess just to follow my own syllabus, I will post a notice about it and email out about it. So when this grade breakdown changes to 30% for in-class, you'll get notice of it. All right. Your expectations. You can expect me to provide clear instructions, to answer your questions if they're not clear, to answer promptly to email, to phone, to text, and give you a week's notice of assignments. It's not fair for me to say, oh, by the way, I want you to get this done by Thursday, if it's Tuesday, because I don't think that's fair. So you'll always get a week's notice. And you should always get 2 weeks' notice of exams, if not far more in the case of the final. All due dates are shown clearly in D2L. And if I think that they're getting kind of nebulous for some reason or people are ignoring them, I'll also post about them in the news section of D2L. I will grade everything within a week of submission. Hopefully I'll grade it much more quickly. Usually there's no reason for me not to have it graded by, within a day or two. The reason for me to do that promptly is so that if there's a problem with it, you can then turn around and fix it. And it's kind of a drag if you, don't find out until 2 weeks later that there's something you needed to go back and fix. If there are errors in your homework, you won't get full credit, but you can correct and revise your program to earn at least some of the missing credit. I need to kind of add the word at least some. Majority credit. If you turned it in on time to begin with, and then there's something wrong with it, and then you fix it, you're still likely to make an A on it. So, every important class announcement, etc., will be posted to D2L. I'm sure I've already done that. Email queries will be answered quickly. Text messages will be answered even much more quickly. I try to answer all email within a day. If it's over the weekend, there's a possibility I might not get to it till Monday. If you've sent me email and I haven't answered, send me a text. No, don't just wait several days wondering why I haven't answered your email. Prod me. Usually it's not necessary. Academic integrity. I hate having to talk about that, but every semester I at least get one or two people who wind up getting in trouble here. Academic integrity is doing your own work. How could you cheat in a class like this? Well, you could borrow somebody else's assignment, and turn it in as your own work. Or you could find somebody who's taken the class in the past and hope that I haven't changed the assignments, and then submit that. And I do change the assignments. I don't change every assignment, but I change a lot of them. So, likelihood that you could do that and that it would give you a perfect grade is very low. But don't turn in anybody else's work. If you copy someone else's homework, not only do you get a 0 for it, but the person you copied from gets a 0. So that'll be a real drag for them as well as you. And that's just kind of a warning to the people, because usually what happens is Joe asks Sam to look at their assignment because they can't figure out something. So Sam emails them the answer, and Joe gets frustrated, gives up, and then just submits that file instead. Then Sam makes a 0 and is really pissed. The last way you could cheat, well, not the last way, there's an infinite number of ways, is you could both work on the assignments together and then both of them turn in the same file. Don't do that either. If you're stuck on something, ask me. I'll come in and make office hours available to you if they're not during my scheduled office hours. If we build up a good working relationship, you'll enjoy it. You'll learn a lot more by doing that, and you won't run the risk of getting detected and bad things happening. What are the bad things that could happen? Consequences of academic dishonesty. I swear, people find weird ways of cheating. I've had people emailing to each other during exams because the exams are online. And I really don't want to have to be the kind of prof who's sitting there staring at your screens. Everyone's using text messenger. I also am not the kind of prof who likes having to collect people's phones to make sure that you're not texting each other, although that's a little bit more obvious, isn't it? Everybody just do their own work. The consequences are, if I think that you're cheating, or if I can prove pretty definitively, then you'll get a 0 on that assignment, you'll get an F on that assignment. That's the least that'll happen. If you do it more than once, or if I think it's a more serious infraction than that, then it'll be escalated to the division dean and the director of student conduct. So for example, last semester, I had 2 people who were turning in identical assignments, and it was actually because one person was copying the other person's work, I believe. I think that other person did not know that it was doing it, although I can't prove that. And so I told them, once I figured it out, to stop, and they got 0s for those assignments. Then they kept doing it. That was a drag. Don't do it. You don't want, serious consequences. You can challenge accusations of academic dishonesty. So if I failed a grade, and then you came and talked to me about it and tried to prove that you did the work on your own and you weren't able to get any satisfaction that way, you can challenge it. You can file a challenge. But the risk of that is that if the board who handles those challenges, you would present your evidence, I would present my evidence, and if it was not found in your favor, you would probably be withdrawn from the class, given an F in the class, or even worse, you could be expelled from campus. But you can always challenge things like that. But just come to and talk to me about it, especially if I accuse you unfairly, which I usually don't do. I've never had anybody come and say, no, that's actually wrong. I didn't do that. The last way you could challenge is you could go and find code online and then, and turn that in instead. And I suppose that eventually, my programming problems will be uploaded to the internet, in some database of answers or something like that. I try to change them to prevent that from being useful. But if I ask you to write a program, like I say, please implement a Caesar cipher. And, we do part of it in class, and then I send you to go home and to do the rest of it. And you can't figure it out. And so you Google up Caesar cipher, and you go and find a program that does that, at least in some way. I'll be able to tell that you didn't write it. It'll use programming techniques that I don't recognize, or it won't be based on any code that we did in class. I don't have to give you, an F on it. So it's okay to Google. Google is your friend. If you can't figure out how to do something, Google is definitely your friend. If I ask you to write a program that reads from a file. You know, you could do C++ file input example. That's totally cool. You'll find all sorts of tutorials. You'll see how it works. But, you know, my program won't be exactly what's being demonstrated. You'll have to understand the concepts. Understand the concept, incorporate it into your program, and you're golden. And that's just like in the real world. In the real world, if you took a big chunk of code off the internet and you put it into something that you were shipping, it would be a real problem. It would open them up for legal liabilities.
Depends how much code you took.
Pardon me?
Depends how much code you took. And how
Yeah,
you
yeah,
created it.
yeah. If you give credit to it, you know, and stuff like that, but still, you know. Make it your own. Understand it and make it your own. That's a success. That's the key to success.
Now, what if you understand it better a way that you find online than the way you're presenting it?
That's totally cool.
Okay.
It might be nice to send me a note so that I can explain it better.
I just had it happen in another class. Like,
Oh, well, that-
she was confusing for me.
That's totally cool. If you find a different way of doing it, I want to know about it just because I want to teach it that way. Totally cool. I don't yell at people for not doing it my way. It's not my way or the highway. But if you took, you know, 100 lines of code
Well, yeah,
from the internet and claimed it as your own, then that would be a problem. The only reason I spent 10 minutes talking about it is because it's really frustrating to have to work through it. It's just traumatic for everybody involved, especially me. I hate being a jerk. Okay, student services. If you have some kind of disability, you know, dyslexia, or you can only type with one hand, or, you know, have tardive dyskinesia in your handshakes or whatever, and it's making homework difficult for you or taking exams difficult, whatever the reason for the disability, I'll work with you easily. What you want to do is you want to call that phone number and set up an appointment with the Office of Disabilities and work through them. And let me know about it. They'll send me a note. There was somebody I was expecting to see who I got a notice about having a disability, and I haven't seen them yet. Anyways, you know, so accommodations will be made. Like some people need extra time to take tests, you know, and in one case I even wound up, you know, sitting with the person while they took the test in the you know, in the computer lab, and I could explain the questions in order for them to take the test. Now the rest of you may think, well, gee, that's not fair. Well, it is fair, because when you're taking the exam in here, you can always raise your hand and I'll come back and I'll explain the question if you don't understand the question. I'm not going to give you the answer. I'm not going to go, oh, it's C. But I'll explain the question far better, and hopefully you'll understand it. Accessing computer resources. You all have a student email account. You can go to gmail.com, and the account is usually first name - last name @raider.rose.edu. Type in that format, and the first time you log in, you'll give a password in the form of month, day, year. It'll ask you to change it. And then you have, you know, a rose.edu email address. Good way to send me email. If you get stuck, you can call these folks. They'll help you out. That phone number. The website, D2L, well, all of y'all are already successfully logged into that. Campus computer login, I think all of y'all have done that too, so I won't belabor it. Alrighty, gang, are there any questions so far? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to pop open Visual Studio and just write a Hello World program. It prints out Hello World. And we'll make that our first in-class assignment, and y'all can upload it, you know, earn a few points that way, and then we'll get out early. The rest of the semester, don't expect to get out early because we have a lot of material to cover. Like I said, C++ is a very large topic. Okay, so we want to launch Visual Studio. Visual Studio is a development environment in which we write our C++ programs. Do you have to use Visual Studio? No. You could write a program just using any text editor, like Notepad or whatever. And then you could compile the program if you knew the correct commands to type into the command prompt. What's a command prompt? Well, you know, I'm going to type in CMD into the little search box here. That's a command prompt. Some people call it a shell or a terminal window or whatever. You can write programs just using a command prompt. However, we have access to what's known as an IDE, Integrated Development Environment, that makes writing programs easy. gives you a nice big graphical user interface, and you can type in and you can press the run button and it runs. And if you get stuck, you could step through the program line by line with the debugger. Really useful tool. So that's how we're going to do it. Where do I find it? I don't see it docked down here. Go to the search box, just click on the Windows symbol, search on the, and type in Visual, and you'll see Visual Studio 2013. And since we're using 2013 here, that might be the version that you want to install at home from DreamSpark. You may have to do a little bit of digging in order to find it, because I'm sure that they have a Visual Studio for 2015 or whatever. They may even have a 2016. But if you want it to look exactly the same, I'd get 2013. Then when you're done with the class, you could delete that and install a more recent version. Why do I say that? Because if you're creating projects with a more recent version of Visual Studio, you won't be able to open them here. You'd have to copy and paste the text, or create a new project or whatever. So here we go. I typed in Visual Studio down here. I clicked on it. I launched it. You may as well dock it. If you're planning on sitting at the same computer, just pin it to your start bar. So right click on it and choose Pin this program to taskbar. That way it'll be there every time you come in. It'll sit there and it'll churn for a while. Then we want to create a project, or as this thing calls them, a solution. It calls it a project in some places and a solution in others. Just choose File, New, Project. And by the way, if you've already used Visual Studio before, and I say something and you want to correct me, totally feel free to correct me. It's not going to make me hate you. It's going to make me like you more, because it helps improve my knowledge. I've been a programmer for a long time, but there were periods of my life when I didn't use Visual Studio, when I was a Mac programmer or whatever. So, it's very possible you know things that I don't. That's totally cool. What do we want to do? We want to not create a Visual Basic program, which is what mine is currently defaulting to. Come down here to the one that says Visual C++ and click on that. Use the little arrow on the side to expand Visual C++ and pick the one that you want. What we want is a console application. What we really want is an empty project. If we choose console application, it adds a whole bunch of boilerplate with some Microsoft specific stuff that would not compile if you took this code and you put it on a Mac or on Linux or whatever. So by choosing empty project, we're starting completely from scratch. Before you click OK or whatever though, after you've chosen empty project, we have to give it a project name. Let's call this one Hello World, and then just add your initials to it. And then click OK. Oh, I guess another thing to note, you can browse and choose a different directory rather than a default to create your files. And we will certainly know this by Thursday when you come in, but it's possible that your machines will erase everything that you do on the computer each time you log back in. So it's very plausible that what you do today will not be on your computer when you come in on Thursday, which is a really good reason for bringing a flash thumb drive. And if you do that, then you might want to browse and create your project folders out on your flash drive. But this is just Hello World, and it's probably not going to be traumatic for it to go away. We'll find out though, won't we, if it disappears or not. So we choose OK. It churns for a little bit, and then we see this folder structure here. These folders match things that are out in some format on the hard drive, but there's nothing actually there. Some kind of projects that you create, Visual Studio will go ahead and add a whole bunch of boilerplate code, CPP files and header files and templates and stuff like that, but we're starting off with the bare minimum, so there's no files there at all. What you want to do is right-click on the thing that says Source Files under the Solution Explorer. And by the way, if your Solution Explorer ever disappears, I believe you can find it by going, well, I know it's available somewhere. Never mind.
View.
Pardon me?
First one in view.
Yeah, cool. Under View. Solution Explorer. So when you close that by accident, you can get it back. Right-click on source files and do Add New. Why would you choose Add Existing? Well, if you already had some source code that you'd written, you already had a CPP, which stands for C++ file, then you might choose Add Existing. But we're going to write a new one. So we're going to do Add New Item. It wants to know what we're adding. Are we adding a C++ file or a header file? Well, for now, we're just adding C++ files. So choose C++ file. It gives it a default file name of source. It'd be kind of cool if we change that to match the project name. But you don't have to. I don't care if you turn in something that says source, but I'd much rather it actually have a good name. So I'm going down to this name field and I'm typing in hello world.jgt. Then I click Add and it comes up with a window with no code. Now there's some, I keep using the term boilerplate. You'll understand why I'm using that term, because you wind up typing it into every program after program that you write, and you get kind of tired of doing so. But for the first time, we'll all type it in together. And to make sure I get it exactly right, I'm going to go to Sample C++ Hello World and find an example of it. Here we go. It's just going to be 5 lines of code. I'm not going to cut and paste them though. I'm going to type them. I disagree with that anyways. Okay, so at the top of all of our programs, or most of them, we're going to put the words # include, and then we're going to use the greater than and the less than sign, and between the greater than and less than signs, we're going to put IOStream. Then we're going to add a line that says using namespace std. Now some books won't have you do that, and I'll show you the consequence of not putting that line there. It makes things easier for when you're starting off, but then after a while you'll kind of want to wean yourself from doing that. A lot of code that you find on the internet will not have using namespace std. What that does is it allows us to skip typing in some things that we would otherwise have to type, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, then type int space main parentheses in parentheses, like that. I'm putting a space between them. You don't need to do that. And so you're going to get real used to seeing that we use different kind of symbols. # includes requires a greater than, less than. Functions like this require the round parentheses. But code blocks require the curly braces, which are the shift of the square braces, near the P key. So we have to start and end our code block with a curly brace. Now it's underlining the word int. That's because I made a mistake. It even tells me what the error is, but sometimes you won't understand what it's telling you. Sometimes it's pretty cryptic, or it's actually a symptom of another mistake you made. In this case, it's quite accurate. Error, expected a semicolon. That's because I forgot to put a semicolon here after the letters std. Once I do that, the red underline on the word int goes away. Every directive line of C++ that we type will end in a semicolon. However, while loops and if statements and function declarations like this do not have semicolons. So people get kind of frustrated, because if you say every line has to end in a semicolon, then they start, okay, well, I need one there, and I need one there, and no. But in the directive lines, the stuff that's inside the body, if it's not an if or a while statement, it will need a semicolon. So we're going to make this do 2 things. We're going to make it say hello world, and then we're going to add a call. If you're the PC user, if you're actually programming on your Mac in here, then you won't add the next line, but you will need this one. C out, arrow, arrow. I'm going to call those arrows less than, shift comma. C out, arrow, arrow, and then a message. Like, hello, Jeff. That's my name. You don't have to make it say Jeff. You can make it say your name. And then a close quote. And then two more arrows, and then the words the letters ENDL, which stands for end line. That's not END1. Ones and L's look very similar in monospace fonts, but so that's ENDL. Let's add a second line of text. C out, arrow, arrow, C++ is awesome. And then at the end of that, before the quote, I'm going to put backslash in. Backslash is above the enter key. It's not the slash that's down there, on the bottom row. It's the slash that's under the backspace key above the enter key.
Is that for the space?
What slash in means is new line. ENDL also means new line. These are just two separate ways of getting it to do a new line. If I did not have this ENDL here, then when it ran, what it would print would be hello, comma, Jeff, C++ is awesome. So I put this arrow, arrow, end line, ENDL there, so that it'll put this on the next line. Doing ENDL outside of quotes is the same thing as putting the backslash in inside of quotes. Why would you choose one over the other? Well, if I'm already typing a string and I haven't closed the quotes, I find it easier to type slash in. But in some cases, there's no real reason for picking one over the other as far as I'm concerned. You'll see me mix them up. However, an awful lot of languages support backslash in. Java and Python and any other number of programming languages. C++ is about the only one that uses ENDL, so you'll see me use backslash in a lot. Okay, I'm going to run the program, but then I'm going to show you why I want to add something to it. So I'm going to run it by choosing the local Windows debugger. I'm just going to click that green arrow there. And it says the project's out of date. Do you wish to build it? Yes, I do. And not only that, I'm going to click this thing that says do not show this dialog again. Because for Pete's sake, I want to build it every single time. Okay. It ran and then it closed the window. I didn't even get a chance to see my output. On some development environments, it doesn't do that. So if you're a Mac programmer, you're not going to have to add the next line. And in just a minute, I'll walk around and help everybody. I'm going to show you the last thing that I want you to type. We're going to add a pause command. There's more than one way to get it to pause, but this is one way. But it's kind of a Windows-only way. And so it's not really copacetic. I wouldn't brag about doing this. But it's okay to do. Type the word system and then parentheses and then parentheses, and between those parentheses do double quotes, and between the double quotes put the word pause. So system parentheses quote pause end quote end parentheses semicolon. Now when you run it, not only will it display the message, but it'll pause saying press any key to continue. So what did this line actually do? It told the operating system, oh, I want you to execute the pause command. Pause is something that's available from the command prompt, from the Windows shell. So it's just executing a command. You can execute pretty much any executable. If you want your program to launch, World of Warcraft or whatever, that's stupid. But, you could stick anything between those quotes. You might have to embed a path to it, a full path or whatever. We'll just use system pause, though, to prevent the window from closing too quickly. All right, I want to wander around and make sure that everybody's got this up and running. There's two ways of running software. One is in debug mode and one is without the debugger. If you look under the debug menu, we'll see that. There's start debugging and then there's start without debugging. Quite often, I'm just going to go down to start without debugging. But if you want to step through the program line by line to see where it's malfunctioning, then you'll want to do start debugging. And that's the one that is executed by pressing this green arrow there. So if you're wondering why I'm not always pressing the green arrow, sometimes I don't want the ability to go into the debugger, and I think it runs more quickly if I choose start without debugging. All right. Able to start Visual Studio projects. Well done, RP.exe.
Was I supposed to save it to?
It seems to be not know that we have a C project going on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy all this, and then we're going to close this solution, and we're going to make a new project. Well, that's what you did, right? Call it Hello World 2. I really don't know what's wrong yet, so I'm just repeating all these steps. And then go to source files, right click on source files and do add CPP. Give it a different name there. But it has to end in .cpp. Maybe that was a mistake. Maybe when you overrode it, you didn't leave the CPP extension. Okay, that's all then. All right, and paste. Add that pause command after you test it first, and then it'll keep the window after it runs. Who else is having problems getting yours up? Whoops. Let's see if we can find it. You had it going, right? Yeah. You should be able to choose File, Recent Projects.
No, I had it. I exit out before.
Yeah.
I'm messing around. Okay.
Oh, the Solution Explorer isn't showing. So just go, maybe we can get that going first. If the Solution Explorer is missing, find another document. You'll see it. Now we have to right click it and go right. Leave the extension .cpp, but give it a different name there, like Hello World, Hello World with your initials. Anybody else need help? Use Xcode. Yep. Awesome. Alrighty. When you're ready to upload this, I actually recommend getting out of C++, out of Visual Studio entirely to upload it. But at the very least, you want to come over here and do File, Save All, and then probably closing the project as well. Close Solution. Now, there are some newbie mistakes that some of y'all will inevitably wind up doing, and it's not because you're dumb, it's just because Visual Studio acts a little bit differently. If you go and you double click on a C++ file, you won't be able to run it. If I went out into my user directories, found where that file was, Visual Studio, projects, ooh, it's not even there. Where did it go? I guess I'll go back into it and find it. Anyways, if you find a C++ file and you double click on it and it launches Visual Studio, you're not going to be able to compile and run it. It has to be part of a solution, a part of a project. Similarly, if you go down here to Recent Files and select a file, it's going to open the file, but it's not going to be a project. You'll notice that Solution Explorer is showing different stuff. So that won't work either. You have to open the project itself, and if you don't have the project, you're going to have to create a new one and then add the file to the project. Okay, so why wasn't I able to find that project? Alright, mine's in a very strange directory. Mine is in C:\users local admin documents. Yours may not be in the same place. You should be able to find it just by going to Documents, Visual Studio, Projects, and then you'll find it there.
If you right click on the solution name in the Solution Explorer, you can open it in Windows Explorer on the solution name itself. Dot, or underscore J whatever T. One down. Actually, it's there. Open file folder in File Explorer. Very bottom.
I haven't spotted it yet. There it is. Excellent. Excellent. Thanks. I wish that NetBeans had that option. Okay.
Go searching.
So, to upload your file, you could either give me the entire project or you can just give me the CPP file. Either one is totally okay with me. But as you work on this stuff, you're probably going to want to get in the habit of uploading the entire project, because that way you could download the project again and open it without just opening that single file, which isn't going to do you any good. So to upload the file, first I have to create a Dropbox for it. But then you're going to click on the Dropbox and you're going to submit your file. Let me create a Dropbox. This is in class assignment 0. Why do I call it 0 rather than 1? Because when computers itemize a list of data, they don't start counting at 1. If you ask a human to count 10 items, they'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But in a computer, you go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just to reinforce that, you're going to have an in-class assignment 0 and a homework assignment 0. That won't play into code that you write until we hit erase. But just keep that in the back of your mind, that the first item that a computer calculates is called 0 rather than 1. All right, go to the Dropbox, refresh it if need be, and you'll see in class 0, hello world. And for everybody who's already submitted stuff to D2L, I know that I'm going too detailed, but I am going to show you how to zip it while you're submitting it. But this is only true for the PC users. The Mac users need to compress before they try to submit it, if you're going to submit an entire project. Your Mac user, just give me the CPP file. I wouldn't know what to do with an Xcode project anyways, unless I was using my Mac. Okay, so since I'm not in student mode, I can't see the same thing you do. Let me fix that. Okay, so I come here into the Dropbox. It says in class 0. I click hello world, and this is like an email program. Not only do you have to add the file, but after you add the file, you have to click submit. And sometimes people will click add, and they'll think that they're done, and they're not. So we click add file, and then upload. We need to go to this directory that the file is stored in. Or you can drag and drop, which is where the feature that you just told me about opening in the File Explorer, in Explorer would be great. But okay, so I'm going to choose upload. I'm going to go and try to find that directory. Good grief, guys, why did you make it not? Yeah. There, you should find a Visual Studio folder. If you click on Documents, tell me if this doesn't work for you guys. I think mine is different because I have admin access to the machine. Then under there should be Projects. In the Projects folder, you should see a list of your files. Of your projects. Right now, there's probably only one. You could just give me the CPP file, or you can give me the whole shebang. If you want to give me the whole shebang, which is, pretty cool, right-click on it and choose Send to Compressed Zipped Folder. So choose your project folder inside the Projects directory. Right-click on it and choose Send to Compressed Zip Folder. Then it'll give you an error message, perhaps. Great. Really? Is it giving y'all an error as well if you do that?
I did it in 7 seconds, which is fine.
Okay. Fine.
Had to.
Yeah. I'm just grumbling internally. All right. Instead of trying to send to compressed folder, which should work on every other Windows machine in the universe, you can choose 7-zip, add to archive. It'll create an archive file, and you just click OK. And there we get our compressed file. That file actually has the entire folder structure, the entire directory structure. And if you click on that folder, you'll see that there's a debug folder, and then there's a folder with that file name, and then there's another debug folder, and then there's all sorts of things. So if you send me the project folder, I get all of that stuff, and that's totally cool. So I'm going to submit that, but then I'm also going to give myself just the CPP file itself. So I'm going to click Upload again to add a separate file. And the way you do that is you open your project folder. There'll be another folder in there with the same identical name, and then you should see a .cpp file. That's the one that I really need. So double click on that CPP file, and then you're uploading that source file rather than the entire project. You don't have to do both. Just do one or the other. I have no preference for which way you do it, as long as it's one of them. What you don't want to do is go to the project folder and give me the SLN file, just the SLN file, or just the SDF file, or anything else. It either has to be this zip file or the 7-zipped file, or if you're really weird and want to send me a RAR file at home, that's okay, whatever. Or it needs to be the CPP file. Anything else I can't grade, because if you click on that SLN file or that SDF file, then there's no source code in it. So, I can't give you credit for it. I'll ask you to give me the right file. Okay, after you've done that and you've got a list of 1 or 2 files here, then you click Add, then you click Submit. Once you do that, you'll get a screen that says File Submission Successful. And at the bottom of that screen, you'll see something that says Confirmation Email Sent. If you don't get that screen, it means it didn't submit, and it won't be there, and I won't be able to give you a grade for it. So, and I know most of y'all have used D2L already, but not everybody. So there we go. Now that I'm looking at the Dropbox folders, I see a folder here. It shows how many files I uploaded. If I ask you to revise it, it's no big deal. Just go in and add another file. You can submit things as often as you want. It's not like the first one has to be deleted before you can submit another one. Some people configure D2L like that so that you can have one and only one submission, but I think that's silly. You'll see a score after I've graded it. 105 out of 100. In-class assignments, I don't give a bonus for turning in early, but your homework. If you don't get a perfect grade there, you'll want to click on the feedback. There'll be some link there, and you can see what I said was wrong with it and what you need to do in order to correct it and get more credit. Yes, sir?
Do you have a preferred naming convention?
My preferred naming convention is a project name followed with your initials. For the individual CPP files, the same thing. If you're just going to give me a CPP file, I'd like for it to have, for now, the file name and your initials. If we get to the point where we're creating classes, then it'd be kind of dumb to have to put your initials on every class, and so I won't ask for that. Alrighty, I think we're done. You know what, I promised that we might get out early, and looking at the clock, I don't think we did. I apologize. Oh well. We're going to do a lot more fun stuff than this, more than just displaying a hello world, so I hope you all are looking forward to the class. I can tell already that we have some people with experience here, and I also know, some of y'all from my prior classes who will not have C++ experience. That's totally cool. So, if you have any questions, we can hang out and talk. Otherwise, I will see y'all on Thursday.
So is Dreamspark just a way to get easy lessons software?
Right.
Okay. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, it's worth getting on there and looking around, even if you already have Visual Studio from somewhere else, just to see.